was an actual, authentic experience. When we have an authentic experience, we're empowered. Life really makes sense. We're there. We've experienced something. We've felt it. We've seen it. We've touched it. It's filled our life. It's filled our heart. It's what we are now. It's who we are now. How could I breathe and not have that experience? And the interesting thing about experiences that are absolutely true and positive and genuine is they get bigger when we really look at them, when we behold. That's all he said is, greetings, Glenda, behold. And so when I beheld, it became bigger and bigger and bigger. How you found a subject and now you're interested in it, and you find these positive, attracting emotions. It's like an attracting emotion. You heard about this book, and you don't want to wait for 3 weeks to get it from ordering it online. You want to go to the bookstore and get it now. You go into high interest, and that generates an emotion. Then there's the emotion of, let's just say excitement. Or let's take it higher than that. Let's go to exhilaration. Let's really pump it up. We've got exhilaration here. Now, and we can go way above that. We can go to spiritual joy, if you want to take it that far. I don't need for you to examine every single emotion on this whole scale. What I want you to learn for yourself is I want you to learn this. I want you to teach each other through your dramas and through what you're willing to share about your life authentically. Okay? Here's what the objective of what we're going to do. And that is that what Yeshua has told me, what I have discovered in all of my teaching and counseling, is that when we really examine, we take an event in our life, a situation in our life that has been somewhat negative, let's say depressing or challenging, it's really been nagging on us. It won't let go of us, and we feel kind of bad about it. Whenever we actually look at the emotion contained in it, we really look at it, that emotion diminishes. By actually addressing a negative emotion, it gets less. It always happens. When you can really be in the authenticity of a moment of grief, you say, I was really, really sad about this. Now, you don't just remember as a distant memory. You just really let yourself be there and feel the actual emotion. Doesn't mean you have to cry at the table. It can be an inner experience, but you're really there with the emotion. You will feel it get less. Now, when you are with a positive emotion and you feel it, it will get bigger. Why do you think that is? Because you are basically love. You are basically good. You are basically joy and love. You are essentially made up of these positive elements. So the minute you fully embrace a positive experience authentically, it gets bigger. Want to know how something is really right for you? Don't run from it. Don't just read books about it or talk to other people about it. Embrace it. Give yourself a chance to really embrace it. If it gets bigger for you, it's right for you. If when you really, really look at something, you really hold it up tight. For example, let's say you've been kind of, think back to your days when we were all single, and you met this really cute person, and you were a little bit googly-eyed, and maybe you were on the campus or you were at a coffee shop, and you just get a little bit googly-eyed when you see this person, and you can't take your mind off this person. Well, the best way to handle that is go up and say hello. You just go up and say hello. You get some eye contact. Maybe you go have a cup of coffee or meet the person in the evening, go to the disco or go have a beer or whatever, you guys do. Having a little direct experience, what do you know? What will happen, you'll notice will happen almost immediately, is your interest will either get a little less or it'll start getting a little more. If it gets a little less, you may never call the person again, right? See, I wanted to take you to a real experience you can all relate to. The same thing, let's say you're interested in working for a company. You've heard all these great things about this company. Some people have just made millions working for this company, and you're really curious whether you would like to. Well, go walk in the front door. Go feel it. Go inside. Set yourself up for an interview. See if it gets bigger or smaller. If it gets smaller, it's not right for you. If it gets bigger, maybe you're not ready for it right then, but maybe it's worth looking into a little more. Maybe it's worth getting some education on. Maybe it's worth finding out something more about. What's inside you is what really, really counts. What's going on in you? What are you hanging on to that's not you? And I promise you this, if you really engage, if you really look at the things you've been holding on to that are negative, if you're holding on to them, it's because you haven't really looked at them. The minute you really, really look at and fully regard and fully examine something that is, quote, negative, well, we'll just say negative, okay? It has a negative association, all right? It'll start getting less than. It will start diminishing. It does every time. I've never seen, how many counselors do we have in the room? I know Luann is. Yes. Have you ever seen an exception to that? Where it got bigger as you looked at it? The only way it can get bigger is if all you're doing is talking about it. Yeah. Have you ever just been bored to death? You sat at the coffee table and somebody was telling you about his lost love, and he just goes on, or the job he got fired from, and you say, oh my God, when is this going to end? And the more you listen, the bigger it gets and the bigger it gets. Well, the guy's not having an authentic experience with it. He's just talking about it. If you could find that entry point where you get your friend into having an authentic experience, it will start getting less than immediately. It starts going away. And of course, that's what counselors are trying to do. They're trying to listen until they've heard enough to help you find that entry point. Because we dodge these things thinking that if we look at them again, they will get bigger. That's why we dodge them. And that's what I want you to find out for yourself, that when you really, really look at the negative things that have happened to you, they get smaller. Because you're not it. You are basically good. You are loved. You are here as a creative force of God, as a creator. And the things that are wonderful get bigger when you embrace them. The things that are less than, the things that are negative get less than when you actually look at them. This is the power of forgiveness. When you forgive, it goes away. But you have to look at something in order to forgive it. That's an interesting thing about forgiveness, is you can't do forgiveness by remote control. It doesn't work. You can't just generically say, okay, I forgive you, and you never have really looked at what you're forgiving. No, it doesn't work. If somebody has actually hurt you, you're going to actually have to look at that moment of hurt. And in that moment of hurt, you're going to have to say, I forgive you. You can't do it at a distance. But if you do it right there, right then, when you feel the hurt, it all goes away. And that's what people are not getting out of the act of forgiving. And without realizing why they say this, they say forgive and forget. Well, that's not going to cut it. Because what they're saying is forgive by remote control and then sweep it under the carpet. It doesn't work. Have you ever tried that? You think you've forgiven something or someone and it keeps coming up?
Isn't that because you haven't gotten to the root?
That's right.
Yeah.
You haven't gotten to the authentic hurt. What really hurt. What you're really hanging on to that you're not wanting to look at again. Because you're afraid it'll get bigger. And this is what I want you to learn for yourself, is that it gets smaller when you really look at that exact moment of hurt.